Okay. If you buy something that doesn't have a digital screen, let's go with that. Doesn't have a digital screen. You can probably repair that yourself. Washing machines, dryers, refrigerators, other lawnmowers, stuff like that. Okay? Even if it has a plastic part, you can still probably fix it. Okay? How? Well, you look at the wear items, and the stuff I'm talking about is probably before 2000. Okay? Even if it has some plastic in there, which the plastic gears might strip, but if that happens, whatever, here's what you do. The plastic parts, like let's say it's a gear, if you have half the gear, you can probably get some measurements of that, take it with AI, get some measurements, and off that you might even be able to make a file that you can 3D print another one off of on a 3D printer. Okay, maybe you send it out to somebody and they can cut it out of metal out of that deal. Okay, so you can get your plastic gears and all that way. Okay, most of that 90s stuff, it's all push button. Like I'm just gonna use a washer and a dryer real quick. So you have a washer, top loader. Don't ever buy a front loader. I won't even get into that, but the seal goes bad in the front loader, and then you get a puddle of water. Top loaders, you never have that problem. So a top loader is pretty simple. You got a couple switches that control the water, when the water turns on, when the water turns off. You got a couple valves there, and then you got a motor that turns the drum, and a belt that turns the drum. Sometimes it's a gearing setup, but usually it's a belt. Okay, so what do we got there? We got the motor that can break, we got a belt that can break, we got relays we got to replace, we got switches that might go bad, and we got a possibility of a pump, but the pumps will actually almost never go out, or the actual valve. The valves almost actually never go out. Even in that case, you can swap out custom parts, custom parts that you can't find in a catalog from 20 years ago, with generic stuff. That motor, you can probably swap that out with a generic motor. It's a 110 volt motor, in the USA. It's a 110 volt motor. You just got to match up the look at the data plate and match up the data plate, and you can probably find out a generic motor that you can swap in. And you might have to press out the gear at the top. It might have a gear in the top. It might just have a key that you can pull that key out and put a new key in, a little square key, something like that. You might have one of those, or it might just have a screw that holds that gear in, and the gear will come off. Then you measure the shaft size, and you swap that motor out for a generic motor. There you go. Now you got the motor fixed. The belt, you can measure the belt. Okay, measure the belt and buy the same size belt. Ask AI how to measure the belt, and you can measure the belt, and I guarantee you can not only get the belt diameter, but you can also get the belt, the pitch of the belt, if it's like that, or if it has a tooth count. You can ask AI, what is this tooth count, and even measure that, and that way you can get the tooth count. So now you got the tooth count, you got the diameter, and you know what the belt size is. There's probably a belt out there you can buy today. It might not say it goes to that, but it'll fit that. It'll fit. It's the same. Everything physically is the same. It doesn't matter if it goes to a 2012 dryer. If it fits yours, there you go. Or washer, whatever. It fits yours. Relays are stupid simple once you know how to figure them out. All they are is a switch. And there's just different things in there. And like I'm saying, we're not talking digital controls here, so there shouldn't be any computer. It should be this thing turns a relay on, which turns this on for whatever during a timer. There's a timer in there too. The timer might be hard to find, but once again, if you can find a universal part to replace that part that has the same kind of data sheet, you can probably find something to replace it. So, oh, and the thing's not a nightmare to work on. I mean, once you pull it out, once you get that back plate off, it's pretty open. It's meant to be worked on. Lawnmowers. I've swapped out older engines. I had a 16 horsepower. I had a wheel horse with a 16 horsepower opposed engine thing, engine, and it's like a boxer, I guess. But you know, nobody made parts for it. Replacement was going to be like $3,000. I threw a Harbor Freight engine in it. I ran it for I think it was like a 12 horsepower Harbor Freight engine in it, and I mean, I saved like $1,000, ran it for like 3 more years, and I sold the thing for like half of what I bought it for. You know, I lost out on the engine there, but I got 3 years out of it, and the engine still ran when I got rid of it. But there you go. I used it for snowblowing. Then I bought a new snowblower this year, so I didn't need the big unit anymore, and saved some garage space. But you know, swap it out. You don't have to put the exact engine back in. Lawnmower's a perfect example. One 5 horsepower vertically shafted engine will probably fit on the same frame with another one. You might have to make some new holes. You might have to play around with it a bit. Maybe you got to figure out something, but you can make it work. You don't have to use the exact same everything doesn't have to be the same. You can replace it with generic parts and make it work. You know, people think that if it's not in a part catalog, the thing is junk. You know, if I can't find this exact part, it's junk. That's true for newer digital stuff. You need to do the handshake or whatever. You need to have this module talking to that module. It has to be that way. They designed it that way. For this module has to talk to that module, and even in that case, you got to match everything up, and everything has to be perfect. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You know, it's not. They're designed not to work. They're designed, or they need to be programmed to work. And it's dealership software, and I ain't even going to get into it. But if it's like a washer, a dryer, a refrigerator, mind you, don't be playing around with coolant and all that. You know, if it needs to be tore apart to get to the, if it needs like the coolant and all that, send that out to somebody. Maybe somebody in your area actually specializes in that. Don't be messing with that coolant stuff. Same thing with AC. Don't be messing with your AC car coolant yourself. It's nasty stuff. But just like if it has the ice dispenser, okay, you can probably fix that yourself. Or if it's got a water dispenser, you can probably fix that yourself using universal parts. Once again, if it's got a digital screen, or even if it's got buttons, that you push that are a flat screen with buttons, I don't know how to explain it. It's a push screen, but it doesn't actually have. It's got like a panel. If it's got a panel, you know, that might have a computer control. If it's got a computer control, you can't do it. But if it's like before that, if it's like before 2000, maybe before like 1995, all those appliances you can probably repair with generic stuff. Generic bearings. You know, a bearing go bad. The thing, you know, bearings do go bad. Oh well. So you go through, or bearings or ball bearings or whatever the drum sits on, or maybe the motor actually has bearings in it. Whatever. You can measure the bearing. I've done it tons of times. You can measure the bearing, find exactly what that bearing size is. Today, I would ask AI before I would Google the hell out of it and do the exact height and do the inside diameter, the outside diameter, and I could almost find the bearing that way. But nowadays, you can ask AI, here's the bearing I have, here's the outside diameter, here's the inside diameter, here's all this. Where can I get another one? And it'll probably kick you out like 30 different things. And they might not all be good. I mean, cross-check and everything, but there you go. You can find your bearings that way, you know? And instead of getting it out of a part catalog, everybody thinks they got to get everything out of a part catalog. Call up whoever, and, you know, obviously they're not going to warranty that. I ain't even going to get into that. Another, you know, and find that bearing. Another thing is, if you want these old stuff, go to estate sales. I'm telling you right now, refrigerators, washers, dryers, sometimes lawnmowers, not as much lawnmowers, but refrigerators all day long, washers, dryers, sorry about that, refrigerators, all those big appliances, nobody wants to move them, okay? So they'll go for seriously $5 to $20, and they're probably working that day. If you're willing to move it, you can probably go to an estate sale, somebody where they're selling the house the same day. You know, they're selling everything in the house, and they're going to sell the house maybe the same day, maybe they're later on that afternoon, maybe next week. They're going to sell everything in the house after that. They don't care what they sell. If the refrigerator's going, it's going. So and they don't want it, it's going. So if you want it, if you want a cheap refrigerator, go to an estate sale. You could probably pick one up for like $10. It'll work. It might last you for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. Now, do your measurements before you go there. In case you get there, you got to move this heavy thing. You're going to find out it's 2 inches too tall. Something like that. But, yeah, $20 for a refrigerator. What are they, like $2,000 these days? And it might last you 5 or 10 years. Both situations, the old one and the new one. Anyway, letting you guys know, you can fix it. Use generic parts. See ya.